Hello my beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm very excited to do because I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 fall eyeshadow palettes that I'm excited to reach for in the upcoming season. These are the eyeshadow palettes that inspire me and I'm very excited to give them more love and show them more attention. Most of these eyeshadow palettes surely can be used throughout the year. However, fall is definitely a season when these palettes will shine. Most of these eyeshadow palettes I've already featured on my channel in different videos. However, if any of these eyeshadow palettes pique your interest, let me know in the comment section below if you would like me to create a real tutorial here for you for your inspiration. Before we get started, I would love to welcome new visitors and viewers to my channel. Hi, my name is Eve and I love all things beauty. Here on my channel, I share about makeup, skincare, hair care, and at times lifestyle things like travel, fashion, and lifestyle vlogs. If that sounds interesting to you, I hope you stick around, enjoy this video, subscribe to my channel, and now without further ado, let's dive in. So I do the recommendations for eyeshadow palettes seasonally, and I will link the previous videos for you also in the description box. And all the recommendations that I've done prior, I strongly stand for all those options and I still love those palettes dearly. However, industry evolves and there are new products coming out on the market. In addition to the eyeshadow palettes that I've already featured earlier in the palettes in the previous seasons, I definitely want to add new palettes to the options. So when I think of fall colors, I definitely think of warmer tones and greens and burgundies, maybe a little bit more of a grungier smoky eyes. There are also some fun holidays that happen in the fall season, like Halloween and Thanksgiving. So with that in mind, I definitely have some associated colors that come with that. Early fall is also somewhat a transitional time between summer warmer days and going into a little bit cooler days. So with all that in mind, I have selected these palettes to talk about today. So let's begin with the first one. It's considerably a newer palette to me. It was recently launched. This is Ghost Town USA from NOMAD Cosmetics, and it does have a Halloween theme to it. This is a very fun cool tone murky eyeshadow palette. It does have a little bit more of your grungier muted cool tone mattes, and the matte formula in this palette is very good. If you love matte looks, you will love this palette. I really love how the palette is organized. You can definitely do the very monochromatic looks by following this vertical rows, and you can also mix and match them. They blend and go together very well. However, when it comes to shimmers, I really love that there is a variety. Some of these shimmers are very nice and punchy and bright, would give you a pop of color, like this bright greens and the purple, this beautiful silver shade. And I also really appreciate a little bit of warmness here in the neutral zone. I'm definitely keeping this palette very handy for the upcoming fall season. There's a high chance that some of you would know that this palette would end up here. This is a palette that I briefly spoke about in one of my recent videos. This is a palette that puts a smile on my face. I love the color story. I think it's super fun, and also the theme is super fun. And this is a Hocus Pocus 2 eyeshadow palette from Colourpop. This was last year's launch, and this is such a fun color story. There's definitely a Halloween theme going on here to its fullest. This is my only Hocus Pocus palette from Colourpop. I know they've done several launches. This palette is so much fun. I know this palette might not be available. I hope they will bring it back because I think this palette was fantastic and is fantastic. I am definitely excited to bring it out. We have oranges and greens and purples. This purple, I think, is my favorite color in the entire palette. It is just so unique and so bright. This palette has a really good Colourpop eyeshadow formula. So I'm definitely excited to play with this in the upcoming season. So another palette that is very beautiful color story, very Halloween and fall leaning, is Ambience palette from Ace Beauty. I really love the packaging on this eyeshadow palette too. It does have a really nice smear. This was my first Ace Beauty palette that I purchased last year. It was a last year's launch. Would you just look at this color story? It is absolutely gorgeous. If this does not scream fall and Halloween time, I don't know what does. You have your warm tone shades here, your burgundies, your greens, the purples. Some of the shades are so unique. I love this eyeshadow palette quality. Mattes and shimmers are stunning, but shimmers are absolutely out of this world. My two favorite shades are, I think, these two out of this entire palette. They're just outstandingly gorgeous. And look at this fiery orange, stunning. All these shades definitely pack a punch. There's so much pigment and the shimmers are really beautiful, smooth and bright. I am definitely excited to play with this palette in the fall. Another palette that is considerably new to my collection and also is a newer formula to me. I just became familiar with this brand's formula this year, and I definitely want to see more from the brand because the quality of both mattes and shimmers is really, really good and easy to work with. This is Sugar and Grunge palette from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. So this is a little bit a larger palette. You definitely get higher variety of matte shades here, and you get one full row of beautiful shimmers. I really like how you get some darker shimmers here. They're a little bit more jewel tones, and some of the lighter ones that you can layer with other shades as toppers. You can also sheer them out all over your lid and just use them on their own. You can also use them in your inner corner for your complete full looks. All the shimmers are very beautiful, reflective, and very smooth on lids. This is a color story that, to my opinion, covers your needs for the entire year. You can definitely do some lighter looks, like some spring looks with this lighter tones here with the pastels, and then you can definitely do like beautiful monochromatic looks. I am very excited to reach for the greens, the purples, and the burgundies for the fall season. I really love that there's a lot of depth in this palette. I've had this palette for the past few months since it was launched, and I'm excited to continue using it through the seasons and test its limits. So now I'm going to talk about the two palettes. They're from different brands, different price ranges, however, they are the same color story. The palette that's on my eyes today is the Midsummer from Alter Ego. This is a very nice compact palette that has a very beautiful color story, and you know that it perfectly resembles the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau palette that was launched last year, and you know how much I love this color story, and of course Anastasia Beverly Hills quality is so good in this palette. Nevertheless, the Midsummer palette is on my eyes today, and I do have a dedicated video on Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau palette if you would like to see inspirational look tutorials. I don't have these palettes today for comparison reasons. So it's the same color story, just different price points, and the quality is really nice in both of the palettes and easy to work with, to my opinion. Because I just want to specifically talk about the color story because this is a color story that, to my opinion, is perfect throughout the entire year. However, it's also a perfect palette to transition from summer to fall, from warmer days to cooler days. You definitely get some of the warmer tones here in this beautiful gold shade, and you definitely get a little bit of a cooler tone shades here, and also this fun pop of color that's also very, very beautiful. So for me, this is a type of palette that fits so many different occasions, and it's also very easy to wear from day to night. One of the reasons why I really love to have both of these palettes in my collection is because I love to always travel with my more affordable makeup, because for obvious reasons, if something happens to them, it is easily repurchasable. As I'm speaking right now, I do have a pretty large trip coming up in just about a few weeks, so this palette is definitely traveling with me. Another beautiful palette that I'm excited to use this fall is a Stone and Rock from Odin's Eye. This is a green heavy palette. However, I really love this gradient from like lighter shades to darker. I am excited to create the green and smoky green eye looks with this palette, and the jewel tone right here I really, really love. Even though at first it seems like it's a very green palette, however, if you look closer, you can definitely see options where you can differentiate your look. I have a dedicated video on this palette. You can see some of the looks for your inspiration there. The formula is absolutely out of this world in this palette, both mattes and shimmers. I'm very excited to pull this palette out. Another palette that is new to me, considerably new to me. It's not new to the world. It's been out for some time. I just recently picked it up, and this palette has been sitting pretty close to me. However, I am still very excited to continue playing with it, and I think this is a type of palette that of course you can use year round. It does have those like universal shades. However, I see myself getting a lot of use out of this palette in the upcoming fall season. This is a Divine Rose 2 from Pat McGrath. This is a palette that only has two mattes. They are leaning a little bit more on the burgundy, like peachy side, and these are the tones that I really like using in the fall season. I really love two of these colors. I think they are perfectly muted, like muted jewel tones almost, and I really like these shades for the fall. However, this shade and this shade, these are the ones that make me very, very excited to reach for this palette, especially because look at this purple. It is a duochrome shade, and it's so rich. It is so vibrant, as well as this gold shade. I am definitely very excited to show this palette some love in the fall season. Another palette that I'm really excited to pull out, because it's been a minute since I last time used it. This does also have those like jewel burgundy tones that I really, really love using in the fall. This is a Nude Rich from Huda Beauty 9-pan eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette is definitely a little bit more on the smaller side, a little bit more curated, very monochromatic. I really like that there is a little bit differentiation between the shimmer shades. They're still somewhat close and you would still get your monochromatic looks out of this palette. When I think of fall, burgundy is definitely one of the main colors that I think about, that I want to wear the most, and this palette definitely delivers. Another palette that I pulled out is something that I really like. Personally, to me, it speaks volumes. I really like this color story. I really love all these shades and finishes and color combinations and textures. However, this palette, when it was launched, I think opinion differed on it. Some people really loved it and some people felt kind of like meh about it, even though it is a pretty neutral universal palette that you can use a year round. This is a Rose Metals from Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. I really love all these like burgundies, rusty colors, all these different like metal shades. I really love this color story. It's definitely your grungier, smoky eyes. No matter what you do here, it comes out a little bit more muted, like darker, smokier eyes. Smoky eyes out of this palette, just to my opinion, are absolutely stunning. The formula, both mattes and shimmers here, is just so beautiful and easy to work with. I also really enjoy layering some of these shimmers, and they layer so beautifully and they look so smooth on eyes. They're also very reflective. And when you layer two shades, they really look like a duochrome shade on your lid. And this is something that I'm very excited to play with, like layering different shades, coming up with different newer combinations of colors that way. This palette has a little bit of warmness and a little bit of coolness in it. It just speaks personally to my soul, so I'm really excited to use this in upcoming. So fall is my favorite season. I love everything fall related. I'm like a fall maniac, if you will. I just love everything that fall has to bring, from weather to fashion to makeup to holidays. I don't know, pumpkin spice, everything that fall has, I love. I feel like my middle name should have been Autumn and not Alexander. A lot of palettes that I have in my collection, they definitely would fit into the fall season because it is my favorite. Anything that reminds me of fall, I almost feel like I gravitate towards and I want to have. The palettes that I shared with you last year, they were all completely different from the ones that I'm talking about today. Well, one reason for that is because my collection grew and I became familiar with newer brands, newer formulas. So I'm definitely excited to try those eyeshadow palettes also in this upcoming season and play with those color stories. However, one last palette that I wanted to talk about today is something that's unfortunately no longer available, but I know a lot of people picked it up and you may already have this in your collection. This was a holiday edition from Lunar Beauty last year, which came in the form of an advent calendar. It's called 12 Days of Lunar. The idea of putting a eyeshadow palette into the advent calendar, I thought it was freaking genius. You have no names, no numbers, you just put them in here, and they're also magnetic and removable. You can take them out, put them in your traveling palette, which I will be also doing for my upcoming trip. This is such a beautiful formula of both mattes and shimmers. I definitely want to try more from the brand because this quality is very high end. Yeah, this is definitely a palette that I'm very much excited to use this season. Okay guys, these are all the eyeshadow palettes that I wanted to share with you. These are eyeshadow palettes that I'm going to keep in a separate container as my fall eyeshadow palette wardrobe. Let me know if you own any of these palettes and you love them as much as I do, and I want to hear from you. What are you loving for the seasons? Do you rotate your eyeshadow palettes? Do you have a small collection that you like to use year round? I would love to hear from you in the comment section below. Also, if you have any additional comments, questions, don't hesitate to leave them in a comment section below this video. I would love to chat with you there. If you enjoyed this video, give this a big thumb up. It does help my channel out. And if you're not yet a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe to my channel before you leave today. Thanks so much for watching, hanging out with me today, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.